Hey everyone, and welcome back to The Explainer. Today we are diving into something absolutely wild. It's this fascinating intersection of high-level wealth building and, well, basically psychological surgery. We're unpacking a blueprint that's part technical mastery and part complete mental rewiring. So get ready, because what we're about to cover is going to completely change how you view the financial markets and, honestly, how you view your own mind.
Okay, look at that number, $82 million. Just let that sink in for a second. What's really crazy here isn't just the sheer size of the number, though it's huge, obviously. It's the fact that a single trader took a tiny, everyday sum of cash and turned it into this staggering amount entirely on his own. No massive Wall Street backing, no insider information. Just a laptop and an absolutely airtight system. But before we get into the exact mechanics of how he pulled this off, we kind of have to address the elephant in the room, why almost everyone else fails when they try to do the exact same thing.
All right, let's get into Section 1, the wrong trading identity. So, here's the hard truth we found in the source material. Most aspiring traders, they actually fail before they even place a single trade. And the reason isn't a lack of technical skill. It's deeply, deeply psychological. Seriously, ask yourself right now, who is actually trading your account? Like, when you click buy or sell, are you operating from a place of cold, calculated logic? Or are your hidden, unresolved traumas and a subconscious addiction to dopamine pressing those buttons for you? Are you trading to execute a plan? Or are you just trading to feel something?
You see, the core problem isn't your strategy. And actually, scratch that. It isn't even a lack of discipline. According to the psychological frameworks we analyzed, this right here is a $2 million lesson. You might just be operating with the completely wrong identity. The identity of the gambler. You know the type. The gambler is always chasing that perfect setup, but inevitably sabotages themselves. They get hit with massive FOMO. They revenge trade right after a bad loss, and eventually they just blow up their accounts because their self-worth is entirely tied to what the market is doing.
So the absolutely crucial point here is that we have to literally shatter that old identity and build something brand new. Enter the reality architect. A reality architect is someone who operates purely from cold logic and strict capital preservation. They have this deep self-awareness and are completely detached from emotional trauma and the ego's desperate need to just be right. This specific identity is the absolute foundation you need to succeed in the infinite game of the markets.
Which brings us to Section 2, the $82 million blueprint.
Now that we understand the mindset, let's look at the ultimate proof of concept for this reality architect identity. We're talking about Swedish trader Christian Qullamaggie. This timeline is just incredible. Look at where he started. Back in 2011, he blew up 4 accounts in just 2 years. He was totally playing the role of the gambler. But then, in 2013, he did a hard reboot. He adopted that reality architect mindset, shifted his focus to swing trading, and started over with just $9,100. Fast forward to 2021, and by applying extreme discipline, he scaled that specific account to over $82 million. So let me show you the exact mechanics of how he pulled this off.
Moving right along to Section 3, Mastering the Breakout Strategy.
So this is the technical framework, the physical manifestation of his logical mindset. And honestly, it's shockingly simple, but it requires immense patience. He looks for 3 strict phases. Phase 1, a stock has to already prove it's a winner by running up 30 to 100% over a few months. Phase 2, he waits for a tight, organized consolidation period. This is where the price moves sideways in a very narrow range for 2 to 8 weeks, resting right on top of its moving averages. And then, Phase 3 is the execution. The literal moment it breaks out of that tight range, he strikes.
But buying, that's really only half the battle. Check out these trade management rules. He buys the exact moment of the breakout, and immediately he places a hard stop loss just below that day's lowest price to protect his capital. Then, within just 3 to 5 days, he sells a third or a half of his position to lock in a quick profit and instantly moves his stop loss to his entry price. He calls this getting a free trade. From there, he just lets the remaining shares ride the trend using a moving average. Boom! This completely removes all the psychological pressure.
Okay, let's get into Section 4, the 30% win reality.
Prepare yourselves for a major reality check here. If you think an $82 million strategy means you're just right all the time, well, think again. Yes, you are reading that chart correctly. Christian's win rate is roughly 30%. He is literally wrong 7 out of 10 times. For the gambler identity, being wrong 70% of the time would cause a complete emotional breakdown. But for the reality architect, This isn't a flaw at all. It is a massive psychological relief. You don't need a crystal ball to be incredibly wealthy.
And let's look at the math, because this table brilliantly illustrates exactly why it works. Out of 10 trades, he has 7 losers. But because of his strict stop loss, he only loses 1% of his account per trade. That's a total loss of minus 7%. But on his 3 winning trades, by letting his winners run, he makes an average of 10% per trade. That's a plus 30%. The net result here? Even though he was wrong the vast majority of the time, his account grew by 23%. He uses the math of risk to reward as an unbreakable shield.
Which perfectly sets up Section 5, the shield of risk management.
Now, this is the boring stuff, but listen to me. It's the boring stuff that actually builds empires. His position sizes are only 10 to 20% of his account. His actual risk, meaning the amount he will lose if his stop loss hits, is strictly capped between just 0.25% and a maximum of 1% per trade. And he never has more than 30% of his total account exposed to the market at any given moment. This is the secret sauce. It's not some magic indicator, it's an absolute ironclad refusal to lose large sums of money.
Now, I want you to contrast Christian's boring 1% risk rule with this number right here, $269,000. This is a stark, painful warning straight from our sources.
Because this is exactly what happens when the gambler takes the wheel. Our sources detail the story of Abdullah Al-Fazan, a well-known creator who lost over $250,000 live on stream. And why did it happen? Because instead of just cutting a small loss, his ego couldn't accept being wrong. He kept averaging down, buying more and more of a losing position, just hoping it would bounce back. He let hope completely override his risk parameters, and it resulted in a catastrophic wipeout.
All right, let's bring it all home in Section 6, Becoming the Reality Architect.
To prevent those kinds of catastrophic wipeouts, we have to synthesize the technical strategy we've learned with a total psychological transformation. I absolutely love this quote derived from the work of trading psychology expert Jared Tendler. Emotions like fear and greed aren't the enemy, they are signals. When you feel fear or you get that sudden urge to revenge trade, that is just your brain sending a signal that you are exposed or that you're tying your self-worth to a random market outcome. A reality architect observes those emotional triggers, takes a breath, and responds with their systematic plan, never a blind reflex.
So just to summarize everything we've covered today, the gambler chases dopamine, they refuse to take a loss, and they average down until they inevitably blow up. But the reality architect, they follow the blueprint. They gladly accept being wrong 70% of the time because they limit their risk to just 1%. They detach their ego from the outcome entirely and trade from a place of mathematical abundance.
And that leaves us with one final, incredibly important question to ask ourselves today. Tomorrow morning, when the market opens, which identity will be trading your account, the gambler or the reality architect? The choice and the results that follow are entirely up to you. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer. Keep learning, keep building, and I will see you next time.